Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Look, the way I see it, I think President Trump is proving the naysayers wrong. While the talking heads and a lot of people on social media have spent the last couple of days shrieking about World War III and painting Donald Trump as some trigger-happy lunatic, well, what are the actual facts? What is the president actually doing? He's holding his ground and swimming against the neocon current, and I'd argue staying quite consistent and signaling to the world that, again, he's open to making a deal. He's not looking for more American sacrifice, whether that's sacrifice in blood or money. He's not itching for regime change. He's certainly not Bush 2.0. The president seems to be doing everything in his power to actually avoid war, not start one. In other words, he's doing exactly what he's promised from day one. Keep America safe, keep America out of a war, while simultaneously, of course, trying to keep Iran in check, and of course, above all, pursuing peace through strength. I know that's an old neocon saying, but they didn't actually mean it. Meanwhile, it seems President Trump actually does. We got a huge clip coming from the Oval Office here that I think really clarifies some things, and we're going to get to all that, but first, this video is brought to you guys by a sponsor, so let's play that clip.
This video is brought to you by Ground News. Listen, friends, we are living in an information war. All kinds of different outlets posting different information. You got the spin, the bias, the half-truths. It's like navigating through a field of fake news landmines, and that right there is exactly why you need Ground News. Thanks to their truly innovative blind spot tool, you can see every trending story, but then you could also see how different sides are covering the same story or how some outlets are conveniently ignoring it altogether. Here's the perfect example. We got this headline here. Tom Homan sounds the alarm about national security risk from undocumented border crossings. And as you can see with Ground News' blind spot tool, the leftist mainstream media apparatus is pretending like this headline doesn't exist. There was a border crisis? What border crisis? I'm telling you folks, it's the best news aggregator in the business. If you want to see the daily news from a different angle, then you absolutely need Ground News in your arsenal. And of course, now here comes the pitch. By simply scanning the QR code on screen or clicking the link down below in the description, that's groundnews.com/hivemind, you could get 40% off when signing up for Ground News' Vantage plan, giving you full access to Ground News and all of their amazing tools. That's 40% off, folks, by simply scanning the QR code or clicking the link in the description and the pinned comment. What are you waiting for? Go take a look. And of course, a huge thank you to Ground News. Now back to the video.
All right, folks, so Trump, again, said it today. Take a look.
Look, they should have made the deal. I had a great deal for them. They should have made that deal. 60 days we talked about it, and in the end they decided not to do it, and now they wish they did it. And they want to meet, but it's it's a little late to meet, but they want to meet, and they want to come to the White House. They'll even come to the White House. So we'll see. I may do that, but it's a shame it could have been done the easy way.
The president is signaling that apparently Iran wants to talk, and he's even going as far to suggest that he's willing to meet face-to-face at the White House. So for all the people who are saying that he's switched up on his strategy, absolutely not. You know, the old warmongering neocon approach, and really maybe not neocon approach, I'd say more accurately it's the uniparty approach, is to shut down conversation, right? We saw that with Russia and Ukraine. Donald Trump wants to deal make with Putin, he wants to negotiate, but their approach is to excommunicate, to exile, to shut down communication and basically leave the American taxpayer with one option and one option alone, and that's never-ending war. But again, it sounds like what the president is trying to do is avoid war at all cost. He's letting diplomacy lead while making it absolutely clear that there is one red line. Iran will not, under any circumstances, get a nuclear weapon, and that has been his position from the very beginning, which is something I mentioned in a video a couple days ago, how people seem to be suggesting as if all of this came out of left field. But if we look back at the campaign trail, or even Trump's first term in office, nothing's changed.
Trump, they pointed out, was elected on getting us out of wars in the Middle East.
You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
When did Trump suggest that Iran was even on his mind?
Everybody, no nuclear weapons. You can't give them nuclear weapons.
It'd be one thing if Trump had campaigned on stopping Iran's nuclear program.
Don't let Iran have nuclear weapons. That's my only thing I have to tell you today.
But for Trump to just foist this policy on us, completely out of the blue.
Including Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. That's all. They can't have nuclear weapons. It's too destructive, too powerful. They can't have it.
Without any warning.
I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon.
Well, it's a betrayal, wouldn't you say? What else do you call it when you say one thing on the campaign trail?
They cannot have a nuclear weapon. That was the only thing. The one thing I said, you cannot have.
And another thing when you get into office.
You can't let Iran have nuclear weapons.
No, I don't want the U.S. to get bogged down in another war in the Middle East. I think many of the arguments regarding Iran are bogus, as I've said repeatedly on the show. But it also seems strange.
You know, I don't really understand why people feel so sideswiped by this issue. The president has remained consistent since day one. This is exactly what he ran on. And honestly, it feels like we're in a situation right now where many people are attempting to speak for the administration instead of actually listening to what President Trump is saying currently and what he has been saying. And now, naturally, the left is, of course, panicking because Trump is actually doing what he said he would. He's remaining consistent, and frankly, he's doing what they have never been able to do, actually lead from the front without starting a new war. And so in a desperate Democrat attempt to smear the president, they're now trying to pull the stupidest stunt I think imaginable. Brian Krasenstein and the usual gang have stumbled upon a scandal. They're now claiming that because the White House sent a memo to commentators and journalists highlighting the president's consistency on this issue, they're claiming that there's some kind of conspiracy now to brainwash the people. Brian Krasenstein writes, the White House sent emails seen below to multiple influencers and Republican politicians to provide them with talking points to justify U.S. intervention in Iran. They are trying to brainwash us and rationalize war. Then we see an email from the Trump campaign showing all the times the president has been consistent on this issue. Give me a freaking break. Brainwash? I'd say that's a little bit of projection coming from the same people who push coordinated talking points through all their politicians and dozens of NGOs and TikTok shills. The party of brainwash, the party of propaganda, is going to lecture us on this issue? I think not. This email memo was simply a statement of fact, a correction of the record, a bullet point memo reminding folks that he's been quite consistent on this particular issue for quite some time. And the idea that the Trump administration is trying to rationalize war as President Trump is trying desperately to avoid war, well, it's just shockingly dishonest. But it's coming from Brian Krasenstein, of course, so it's not exactly surprising. And if anything, considering how weak the Iranian regime is right now, again, I think what we're seeing speaks volume to the president's actual restraint in situations like this. The Iranian regime is reeling. They've taken major strategic hits recently. Their generals are getting bombed into oblivion. Their nuclear sites are being leveled. Their economy is being crushed by sanctions. The president, if he wanted to, probably could, at this point, declare an all-out invasion, but he's still giving Iran a way out. Rationalizing a war, give me a frickin' break. And probably the craziest part of all is that if Donald Trump really truly wanted to, if he wanted to declare war on the Iranian regime, he probably could do so with very little pushback. You think Congress would push back? Of course not. I mean, they're salivating at the idea that they could greenlight another endless conflict. And when it comes to the polls, well, they kind of speak for themselves.
I feel like there's more support for Donald Trump's positions than is comically acknowledged. Oppose Iran getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, look at this. 79% of adults agree on that. They agree with Donald Trump. Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. 83% of Republicans, 79% of independents, 79% of Democrats. When you get 79% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans agreeing on anything, you know that that position is the very clear majority in this country. And so the American public is with Donald Trump. They definitely oppose Iran getting nuclear weapons.
The chances are that the people probably wouldn't have too much issue with it. And if the president really was this sinister sociopath, as the media portrays him to be, ask Congress to declare a war. We all know about the wartime approval bump that presidents usually enjoy, something that Joe Biden tried to take advantage of, but he was simply too much of an incompetent loser to ever really, get that benefit. The reality is the people would probably support it. A good chunk would probably support it. Another chunk would probably stomach it, because people understand that Iran is not some harmless little country minding its own business, facing destructive U.S. interventionism. No, this is an out-of-control regime that's been funding terror for decades. They're the bank account behind Hamas. They're the ones who, right now, are chanting death to America and burning American flags in their parliament. And yet, despite all that, despite all the Iranian-funded terror, despite the clear, identifiable threat that President Trump probably understands better than anyone, considering he's the president of the United States and is privy to the most classified intelligence, he's still offering peace first. I don't want to hear this talk of Bush 2.0, at least based on the information that we have right now. I don't want to hear this talk of warmonger, neocon, this, that, and the other. What President Trump is doing right now is showing an extreme level of discipline. I mean, he is giving an open-door opportunity to the Iranian regime regime to have a way out. And really, if you think about it, if Iran rejects that chance, well, then you could argue that whatever comes next, well, it might be entirely on them. I think the president is walking this tightrope quite well. He's showing strength, he's flexing American military muscle without being reckless. And most importantly, I'd say he's staying true to his word. No nukes for Iran, no boots on the ground unless absolutely necessary, and there is a provable, clearly identifiable threat to the American homeland, and if there's a chance for peace, he'll chase it. But that, of course, is just my perspective based on the information that I have access to. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.